Welcome back. Well, Laker Nation, we are here at Laker Drawing, and today we are going to learn how to draw a white charcoal box within a box. Now, if you remember in the past, we have used, I took an example, I actually made this one out of a milk carton, and it is a box, a rectangular cube, with a box cut out of it. So, this is what we're going to draw. We have drawn it for almost every material that we have used. This was the sample I did live of the box within the box. The reason why we do this is to relearn the skill, to redevelop the skill of creating three-dimensional images, and to keep working on doing something that is repeatable and something that offers you a challenge. We're going to try to use 4 values of white on our black paper that you were given to take home. You are also going to use your general's drawing kit that you were given to take home and that you've had possession of the whole year. And inside that, you will find these materials. We are going to use, in this case, we were using red Conte just before. Now we're using white charcoal. You're going to want to use your kneadable eraser and make sure that you have that out and ready to go. That will aid you in how you do this picture, and it will help you immensely. Now, some things to think about. If you have one of these lying around, this is it's just simply sandpaper, and it's used for cleaning your tortillon. And you can clean your tortillon. It's also used for if I need to sharpen my piece of white charcoal. Another thing that you could think about doing is you could actually take a knife, and I like to cut off each corner, and then I work this down to a point. Now, again, if you're using a big sharp blade like I'm using, please don't have it extended like that. Remember the Boy Scout or Cub Scout rule, always pull the blade away from your body. And it might be helpful to wear gloves here, but remember this is how we get this sharp. And so you just keep working it until you get it sharp. And it also gets the little bit of coating off of the material that's inherent in the packing process of delivering that. Now, I'm going to use a little tape today, and I'm going to tape down my corners so my paper doesn't move on me. You don't have to, but it just makes it easier for me. I'm going to set up my guy here so that I can see what it is I'm drawing. And I'm going to set him up next to us. And then I'm going to adjust this. So now we have, there we go. This is where we're going to be drawing and how we're going to be working on our image. So if I have this and I had it sitting here like this so you could see it, what we're going to do is we're going to learn to draw the box. We're going to see this portion. So that will be a foreshortened square. It's a square like this, but when we see it at not full perspective, it starts to change and it becomes what we call foreshortened. And also we're going to get a foreshortened square in here. So we spend a lot of time on this because this is a basic skill in art. So one that we want to perfect. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw rather big. I want my rectangular cube to be large. So I'm going to make a dot on white right there. I'm going to go parallel to the edge of my paper, and I'm going to go over roughly equidistant to the same side, and I'm going to put another dot right there. These are going to be corners A and corners B in my drawing. So now to make C and wherever D is, I'm going to put my fingers at what I think the middle is. I'm going to put my mark above it and my mark below it. It's a little trick I learned from Draw 3D founder Mark Kistler, and it's a great way to make a three-dimensional, using two-point perspective cube without having to draw the orthographic lines. Now, by connecting those lines, I've now connected my top of my rectangular cube, which would be on this side. And we are now going to draw what we see here we're going to draw those sides that come down. So I'm going to start here with the line that goes from A and then the line that goes from B. So I'm going to draw a line that goes down, and I want it to go fairly low, probably about 3 fingers from the bottom. I'm going to do the same on this side. These two lines now need to be parallel or very close to each other. Now, this line, if I put a dot in the middle here, that's where these two lines go across. That's where this is. So now this one is going to be about that low. If I measure it with my piece of charcoal, yeah, look at that. Bang on. Now I'm going to connect this dot, and I'm going to connect this dot. I've now almost completed. Now I need to draw this edge. So I'm going to draw it right from here to that line. And it's going to go down just like that. Now I've made my rectangular cube. I could pretend that I have light coming from over here, and it's going to hit the object. And this would be white. This would be a little less white. And this would be hardly any white, just because that's the way the light's going to interact with this object. But we want to first draw a rectangular cube that's inside, and that's this shape that's imaginary right here that's gone. So how do we show that imaginary shape that's gone? Well, we repeat the same skill. We're going to draw another rectangular cube, but this time we're going to draw it inside the box. So I'm going to start down here. I'm going to pick this as the location of this corner right here. And then I'm going to draw a line that's parallel to this one. And I'm going to try to be as close as I can. I could move this up and then guesstimate where that goes. Okay. Now I'm going to go over here and I'm going to guesstimate where this one goes this way. Now I have two lines that represent here and here. So now I have to draw the sides of the box, which are right here and here. So I need a line that's parallel. I'm going to go here with that. That's going to go up. And I need this one right here. So that's going to be parallel to this side. It's going to go up. I now have the beginning of this piece that I'm going to cut out. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to try to draw this box area right here. So to do that, that was the same as drawing up here. So this piece right here is exactly the same as this one. This one is exactly the same as this one. So I have to have a line that matches this back edge, and it needs to go to that line. Then I need to have a line that matches this one, and that one needs to go from that corner to that corner. Now, right there, I can take my hard eraser and I can erase that out. And you can see, I need my brush, that I now have made this flat surface, this side right here, this side right here. This line is represented by that line. Now, to finish this, I need to go from here. It needs to match this one. So that line has to match here. So I draw a line there. Now this one matches this one. So that means this line here has to match. So I'm going to go here. There it is. I'm going to finish this by bringing this line to that corner. Take my hard eraser. I'm going to erase out this portion. Now, this is a real challenge. This is why I have you redraw this many, many times, is because this can be a real challenge to visually see. I could flip this around, and if you close your eyes and look at it, it could look like you drew another box in a different way. It looks like a box sitting in the corner. So it just depends on how you look at this and what you see as a viewer. Because of that, that's challenging. Now, I'm going to take, I've got mine already sharpened. The light's coming from this way. So I know that this is going to be the darkest portion up here. So I'm going to put my hatch in. Remember how we hold it? So we have more surface area touching. I'm going to go back and forth, putting my hatch. I'm going to move it over and I'm going to hatch it this way. There's one hatch. Now I'm going to take the tape off so the paper doesn't move, so the paper can move. And remember what we do. Now we cross hatch. So I'm going to go across the direction I just went, and I'm going to layer in another layer of white. And I want this to be the darkest, light, white being the darkest. That's an oxymoron. I said that earlier today. I want this to be the most opaque white that I can make. So I'm going to continue to put white, and I go 90 degrees, 45 degrees, 90 degrees. And I create cross hatching. Now, this cross hatching is layer after layer. And the reason why we do it this painstakingly slow instead of just grinding it in as hard as I can is I can take your magic eraser, your kneadable, and I can just place it down like this, and I can pull one layer off. So if that was too much, then I can pull some back. I can keep pulling that back. Actually, I pulled 2 layers. If you look at that, it took 2 layers to cover. And it still hasn't officially covered. So now I've got 4 layers on. I'm putting my 5th layer on, and I'm doing that in a cross hatch again. I'm going to go again, cross hatch again, and I just keep layering until I get a nice opaque white surface. Now, it's probably going to be about 8. So I think this is 7. And now we're going to go again at a diagonal. And if I go over a little bit on the edge, I can always use my eraser and come back and take that off. Now, I can use a blending stump, which looks like this. The Americans call it a blending stump. If you're from Au Francais, it is French tortillon, huh? And I like to use my tortillon same way. I hold it flat, and I just slowly scumble by going back and forth over and brushing in and creating a nice even tone of white. Now, that took some of the intensity off, but it also puts some of the intensity of the white into the paper, and it kind of makes it more permanent. Now, I'm just going to keep coming. Now, I could go like this. One of the things you might want to do is just take it off to the side and go like that. And then I would take the brush and go like that. Now, I could take my piece of paper and put it up like this against it where I want that surface to be. And now I can take my hard eraser and I can pull and rub real hard. Take my brush, get rid of my nurgles. Mr. Jacobs would be so proud of me. I'm going to go over here. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to put that down where I need it. And then I'm going to come back and I can erase and I can make a really sharp edge. Now, get rid of my nurgles. There again, Mr. Jacobs. Mr. Jacobs was my high school art teacher, and he always called those funny little things that are left by erasers and oil pastels nurgles. So I have called them ever since nurgles. Now, I can decide if I want to put more down there or less down there. So this is my light source. This will be my least lit right here. This will be my kind of lit. I put 8 there. So now I'm going to put I'm going to probably put 4 on this side. So I put my hatch down. There's 1 layer. Now I'm going to come back with the 2nd layer. There's 2 layers. Now I'm going to do my first 45 degree, create a diagonal layer of hatch. The way you do this covers the ground the best, and it makes sure that all of the textures get filled in. Our paper has a nice tooth to it, so it will take to the charcoal really well. Now I'm going to go another diagonal, and I'm going to come back and create that nice, nice, nice. Now, before I blend that, I've got to do 1 more layer. And I'm going to do this one because this is the same face as this one. So I'm going to put down 1 layer of hatch. And I'm going to put down a cross layer of hatch. Hence, it becomes termed cross hatching. Now I'm going to go diagonal. So it's 90 degrees, 45. Then I flip it a complete 90 and I do another diagonal going the other way. And I now have that layer blended pretty well. I'm going to take my tortillon. Oh, I've got my tortillon out. And I'm going to go in a circular motion. And as I go in that circular motion, I am blending this material in. Now, it's going to start to look like it is nice and dark. And I have to make sure that I can see the difference between this layer and this layer. So that's going to be the key. So I may have to add more to my 20 or my 8 layer and go to 12. And I may have to pull back a little bit on this one as another option. So there are 2 ways to work this, but this is also teaching you the skill of discovering how to layer your charcoal or your pencil, your graphite or your charcoal or your Conte, and even for that matter, how to layer your pen and ink and discover how to make something create value. And value is what makes pictures in materials that are dry materials like charcoal. And now I can obviously see a difference between those 2 layers. It doesn't necessarily show up the best on mine. So I'm going to put another 4 layers on the top. So I get a total of 12. So there's my first hatch layer. There's my second. And now I go diagonal. And I'm not pressing harder. I've been pressing the same intensity the whole time. So I keep the pressure the same. I try to hold a surface of my charcoal at the same surface so it puts down the same layer. Now I'm going to do the same here. There's 12 layers that go here. So there's my first one. Here's my second one. My third one's going to be diagonal. My fourth one's going to be diagonal to that. Now I go across. I'm still crossing. There's 5. There's 6. There's 7. There's 8. Now, if you remember, I scumbled that first before I put my 9, 10, and 11, and 12 on. So I'm going to scumble that in, making sure that that's nice and tight and blended. I'm going to keep blending, and it sounds like my phone is ringing. All right. Supply issue, so we were getting that taken care of. Now, I have 2 surfaces. I could actually leave this black because that could be the surface that is the darkest, but I don't want to do that. I want to make sure that I get another layer of white so that I'm really practicing my layers. So I'm going to put 1 layer down, and I want, again, nice and even. I don't want this to be hard. And see what happened? I had a hard surface underneath, and it created a thing because my paper felt it as it made this rubbing across it. So now I'm going to put 1 layer, and I could leave that 1 layer just like that. Now I could go 2, but I think I'm just going to go 1. Now, if I remember, I scumbled this on the bottom down here. I still need 4 more layers. So I'm going to make sure I get those put in. Back, Jack, do it again. I'm then around and going back, Jack, do it again. Now I could scumble that again. Make sure that's where I want it. Now I'm going to just make sure that this edge gets scumbled out and that I soften that edge. Now what I have to do is I just have to scumble this. And I'm not necessarily trying to wipe out the black. I'm just, and notice I'm crossing it as I go. And that puts a nice layer of and it creates And now all I have to do is clean it up. So I can take my piece of paper. I'm going to put it up to my edge, hold my edge down, take my hard eraser, and clean up my edges. Brush off the nurgles. Yay, Mr. Jacobs. I'm going to do it again. And just the time it takes to take some good care of your drawing and clean it up, it makes it look more professional, makes it look more like you actually know what you're doing. Now, looks like I've got a little bit to go right there. I got to fix up that corner. And I'm going to come across here. I want to fix that right there. And there we go. Last thing I have to do, you should be able to see the difference between 3 layers. There should be a light layer. There should be, this one got a little dark on me. So I might want to take my kneadable eraser and I might want to just scumble some of that off. I'm going to pull, got a whole bunch, see how much came off. And I'm just going to pull a little more. Now, that looks a little uneven, so I could come back in and I could scumble it, and that will, oh, yeah, look at that. Now, I've got a definite light area, and I've got a definite light dark area. Now, I could make that dark area darker if I wanted to. Just about how you go about it. Yeah, I'm almost liking that a little better. So I'm going to bring this in. And you just keep working. Mistakes happen in art. This is how we learn how to do things. Sometimes a really good painting or a really good drawing's cruising along and you make a ginormous mistake. But hey, that's how you learn. You work through it. As you work through it, you discover where and how not to make that mistake again. So there it is, my cube within a cube. Woohoo! This is a skill that we use over and over. The other reason why I have you do this is because you're learning three-dimensional skills, but also the biggest reason is this gives you a chance to get used to how to use the material, which was white charcoal, which comes like this, and I do have a charcoal white that comes in a stick. I used my tortillon or my blending stump. I used sandpaper. I used a sharp object to sharpen it, and I used 2 erasers. And I used a brush. Hey, thank you. And I also used a model because you should always draw from life whenever possible. Hey, thanks. Great job today, Laker Art. And let's keep drawing.